Hi, I'm Naomi Olutayo, and I partner with women to transform their companies to mirror their highest vision that God gave them with the power of brand strategy. Today, we're going to deconstruct the difference between a business and a brand. A lot of times those words have been used interchangeably. They have been used to mean the same thing, to mean different things, but today I want to really give you the gist of the true differences is, because knowing the difference will help you understand what you're building, what your desires are, and how you can better actualize your brand and take it to the fullest potential. Okay, so first, every business is not a brand, and not every brand is a business. Wait, I've said that wrong. Every brand is a business, but not every business is a brand. Every brand is a business, but not every business is a brand. Every business is a brand for a few reasons, but let me get into the definitions first. The definition of a business that I created for myself and my clients is a legal entity that sells products or services, but in our case, products, because I actually only work with product-based businesses. And a brand is a business that has personified itself with its own customer hero story, purpose, identity, character, and personality. So really, a brand, in just simple terms, is just an elevated business, but their goals and their purposes are slightly different. Now, here are the characteristics of a business that sells products. The most obvious and the biggest separations comes down to how buyers buy, depending on if you buy from a brand or if you buy from a business. When a customer purchases from a business, their buying decision is based off of price, ease of accessibility and access, habit, especially if you grew up using a brand just because that's just what your family has always used. So I guess legacy habits, word of mouth and building trust, sales, aesthetics, and reliability. When it comes down to it, in like the nitty gritty of what makes a business, is categorized by how commodified their products are. And commodity products are things that are typically needs or just everyday things that that are necessary for our survival, for our lives. Think of grocery store products. Think of soap, like bare minimum soap. Most products aren't new or inventive or something that we've never seen before. They're just modifications of the bare minimum of different categories. For like I just mentioned, soap. Everybody has soap, but how many types of soap do we have? We have dish soap, we have laundry detergent soap, we have bar soap, we have distilled soap, castile soap, all of the different types of soaps. But at its core, it's still soap. The same thing can go for a t-shirt. We have t-shirts that are different colors, shapes, sizes. They have maybe different fonts that they have writing on, made by different brands, but at its core, it's a shirt. And that's what businesses sell. The main goal of a business is to make money. The purpose of a business is not the driving force, as opposed to a brand, which we'll get into in a few seconds. So just keep that in mind. The core purpose of a business is to make money. Without money, it's not a business, because business needs cash flow to survive. That's how you categorize the health of a business. But remember, I also said that not every business is a brand. So as opposed to business where their driving purpose is to make money, a brand is slightly different. Before we get there, I want to talk to you about the buying decisions or the buying characteristics of customers when it comes to branding. For businesses, it was based off of commodity. But when it comes to brands, it's often, and honestly most of the time, based off of your mission and your purpose, or their aligned values with their customers and their audience. With aesthetic and identity, which is who that customer becomes when they buy your products. Who do they become when they invest in your brand? Who do they become when they are now associated with you as a brand? People also buy for status. So what does it mean for the person to own your products? Think luxury brands like Apple or Gucci. Or let me give you a polarizing one. Android. There's such a stigma around Android, and you can already draw conclusions about who that person is and what it means for them to own, an Android product. And another characteristic is community, which is shared interests and desires among customers. How many times have you bought into something, let's say Stanley, and you see someone else with a Stanley, and it's just, you guys are just on the same wavelength, especially if it's, you got a pretty print or something like that. Or even think of Jordans. How many times have you guys stopped in the street back then when Jordans was especially popular, and people just stop to talk about your shoes or where you got it from or how did you get this limited edition one? It draws people together over a shared interest or mission and cause. And that's a major characteristic of what a brand is. And lastly, lifestyle. What does it communicate to others when you own your product? Could owning your product mean that you're rich? Does it mean that you're fun and youthful? Does it mean that you travel? Does it mean that you are a sad beige mom who lives in Utah and everything's very aesthetic and you have a lot of money? I hope you know that picture I'm painting, because there's a lot of brands that do very well pinpointing that specific lifestyle aesthetic. And I guess I should also add, they all tie into each other. So don't think of it like either or. They all play the bigger part. So your mission, purpose, aesthetic and identity, status, community, and lifestyle, they all play a part. And notice how I never specifically touched on just the product alone. Because when it comes to branding, you're not selling a product. I mean, you are selling the product, but the product is just a vehicle to accomplish that mission or vision. It's a vehicle towards that aesthetic and identity, that status, that community, that lifestyle. Brand, when it comes to brands, you're telling a story that your customers are the hero of, and you get to take them along the journey to actualize themselves in whatever way that they desire or what you've presented for them to be able to achieve. Buying from a brand reveals a lot about somebody. I'm not going to say it doesn't reveal a lot about somebody to buy from a business, but especially when you invest specifically in a brand, and I'd argue that it's honestly probably a little bit more difficult to buy from a brand than it is from just a place of commodity, like a business. Even Target and Walmart. There are more Walmarts in existence than there are Targets. Maybe, depending on what you value and what you desire, you will go to either or, depending on, what you value, what you believe, what you're trying to achieve, how you're trying to show up as in the world. But yes, it reveals a lot about somebody. It reveals what they value, what they're trying to achieve in life, who they're trying to be like, and who they're trying to become. For a customer to buy from a brand, for a customer to buy from your brand, it is them saying yes to whatever story that you're inviting them on. It's to align themselves with your deeper mission or vision that you have set forth for your brand. It's an invitation. It's a promise. That purpose that you have is a promise, and people recognize that. They see it in your aura. They feel it in your energy when you sell to them in your brand touch points. So really, brands is a curation. It's an entire experience. From the moment you first hear the brand, or you see someone holding a bag at the mall, or seeing someone wearing that product, or watching an influencer putting on this makeup piece, and how they live their lives and what aesthetic they have, you are inviting people to buy into that journey for themselves. And so because brands, they may be selling commodity products, but they don't commodify it by the way they brand their products. Price often isn't a factor in what is possible to sell it for. When people invest in a brand, for example, Scrub Daddy, I love using that example because it's just a sponge, and I know it works well. People love it, but it's a sponge. You're selling a sponge for $10 or however much they price it for, but people love it. There's a whole community online called Clean Talk that I found where people love Scrub Daddy. Scrub Daddy sponsors a lot of these Clean Talk influencers. They have their whole page where they show their audience how to use their products, and they talk about the releases. People get excited about it. They get PR boxes about it for a sponge. This thing started out on Shark Tank as a sponge, a very good sponge, but it's a sponge. Why would someone take the effort to go online to their website, or go to the store and search for Scrub Daddy as opposed to a sponge? Notice how I'm not calling a Scrub Daddy a sponge in the same way I'm calling a commodified sponge a sponge. Like, I'm calling it Scrub Daddy, the sponge, not a sponge. That's Scrub Daddy. This is a sponge. You see the difference? When you buy from a brand, you're not just buying, the bare minimum of what it is. You opt into the community. You opt into their universe, their world, and the brand itself is personified, and it has its own story. It has its own characteristics. It has its own tone of voice and voice inflections. It has its own personality and characteristics and values and opinions, and it stands for things if it decides to, and it doesn't stand for things if it chooses not to. It has its whole aesthetic and lifestyle that people can emulate and aspire to, depending on how they position themselves in the market. Positioning, even the way you think of a brand, let's say Scrub Daddy, you think of it, and if you've been following it the way I've been following them over the years, then they are, I know that they position themselves as one of the best. They are priced as if they're the best, and they're one of those go-to products that so many people love because they've built trust, and they've built, I don't even want to use the word friendship, but in a lot of ways friendship. The brand is so unique to them, and it has invited people on such a journey that it's remembered, it's understood, and it's seen. And that's the difference between a business and a brand. Brands curate lifestyle and ways of living and doing things. They create community. They influence cultural initiatives and movements. Think Fenty and how they came out with their, I think it was 51 Shades at their first launch, and how that drastically changed the beauty industry forever, and the standard of what people expect from beauty brands, especially for Black women. Think of brands curating change. Think Bombas, how they give a sock for every sock that they sell, or give a product for whatever they sell. I forgot how they do it, but you get the point. So when people buy into them, they are helping them achieve a mission that people care about. Think about revolutionize industries and how things are permanently changed, how the status quo is shifted, how things are no longer done how they used to be, how things have become more inclusive. That's what brands do, and that's what you aspire to do. Buying from brands is a deeper emotional investment than it is to buy from a business, because it means something to them. It means something to have this, to have what you offer as a product. The core tenet of a brand is impact, because to change how someone lives or to influence how someone shows up in the world, that's impact. And like I said, that's something that you desire to do. The problem comes when we conflate the two, business and brands. And especially because a brand is a business, or a business has a brand. It's easy to conflate the purposes for each, especially in this male-driven, capitalistic type world where everything is metrics based, and it's a very masculine, stringent way of doing things. A lot of times when we talk about our goals for our brands and our businesses, or we talk about our purpose of why we started and what we have, it may not fit in the budget. It may not make sense on paper. It may not, maybe has never been done before, and you're scared. Maybe, this is just an idea that just seems nonsensical. It's been shut down. No one has been able to understand it. I want to tell you that you most likely have a desire to build a brand, and you probably have been using that verbiage for a long time. But I'm telling you, you want to build a brand. And because you want to build a brand, and because you're a spiritual person, you're a person who feels deeply, you're a person who started this business out of passion and a deep-rooted purpose that you believe that was divinely placed on your heart to activate on this earth, things are different for you. The standard of excellence for you is a bit different. So I just want to encourage you, you have this product and you have this business and you're cultivating this brand. I just want you to think about the facets and the tenets of a brand and how it differentiates from a business. How can you go all in on community? How can you go all in on status, the identity of your customer when they purchase from you? How can you give people an opportunity to join you on a journey to actualization, to receiving, maybe a family, or maybe just a type of vision for a life that they've desired? If you sell clothes, how are people going to feel when they put on your clothes? What does it mean for them to show the tag that I bought it from this person right here, from this brand right here? Think of it in a long-term sense. What is the emotional buy-in for people when they purchase from you? What is the energetic exchange? What do they get from you above the product, beyond the product, when they purchase from you? When they tell people, I have this from this brand, who are you to them? What does it mean for them to have your product on their hip, on their feet, in their bathroom, in the back of their videos? What does that mean? And encapsulate the world that you build for them to exist and thrive in, and serve them. Because the core tenet of brand is impact, and impact is always rooted in purpose. What is your purpose, and how can you now exemplify that in a grander way, in a way that people have never seen before, that people are thirsty for, that people are asking for, but don't know how to articulate? How can you be that brand to them, now understanding the differences and purpose of brands and business, and the different core tenets between a brand and businesses, and how people buy when they search for brands as opposed to a business? Highly successful brands and purpose-rooted and led brands, spirit-led brands, and brands that challenge the status quo, revolutionize the industry, do things differently, and submit to the obedience to Christ can coexist. They can coexist. The question is, are you willing to bet on the vision that you have and build that brand that you've been supposed to be cultivating within the company that you have, as opposed to just focusing on metrics that don't contribute to what you are ultimately supposed to be building. I partner with spirit-led female founders of beauty and consumer goods companies to fully actualize their companies and turn them into impactful and magnetic brands with an empowered community and unique identity. If you are somebody who is fully committed, 100% committed to fully actualize the fullness of your brand, to mirror the vision that God has given you from the jumpstart in the beginning, click the link in the description to apply to work with me. And I appreciate you stopping by. Thank you for being here, and I will see you as soon as tomorrow. Bye.